surprised my family with pastries, but overheard them calling me a fool while planning to scam me for $15,000, so I changed the locks, watched them panic. Last Friday, I arrived home early to surprise my family with their favorite pastries. Instead, I discovered them toasting to having a foolish relative with money, and that idiot relative was me. Standing in my own hallway, clutching a bag of chocolate croissants and listening to the individuals I'd given everything for prepare their next financial fraud against me, I recognized something that struck me like a freight train. I was not the family helper. I was the family idiot. My name is Madison, and I'll explain how I went from being my family's personal ATM to teaching them the most costly lesson of their life. 2 years ago, I believed I had my life sorted out. At 32, I recently divorced Nathan, not because we disliked each other, but because we had just drifted apart like old friends who had run out of things to say. Our divorce was orderly, courteous, and almost dull in its civility. There will be no shouting outbursts or custody fights for children we never had. Just paperwork amid the silent breakdown of a life we created together. The only major asset we had to divide was our country house, which was roughly an hour outside of town. Nothing extravagant, but it was on 2 acres of land and had a quiet atmosphere that let you forget about deadlines and traffic congestion. Nathan did not want it. He said he liked city life anyway, so it became mine in the colony. Initially, I intended to sell it immediately. What did a single lady require with a large house in the middle of nowhere? I had my eye on this stunning modern apartment downtown, near to my trading firm where I worked as a senior account manager. The mathematics was straightforward. Sell the house and purchase the flat altogether, no mortgage payments. Clean and practical. But then, my family became involved. My parents, Susan and John, are in their early 60s. Dad is a former construction worker with calloused hands and strong views on everything. Mom was a teacher before she retired, so she has a knack of making you feel terrible without saying you should. They'd always had opinions about my life choices, but they were generally suggestions rather than commands. Sophia, my younger sister, works at a chic downtown store. She's always been the social butterfly, remembering everyone's birthdays, planning family events, and making friends with strangers in grocery store lines. She had been seeing Daniel for almost 2 years. He appeared decent enough and worked in IT or something technical that I never understood. When I discussed selling the house during Sunday supper, it was as if I had joined a cult. "Madison, you cannot sell that magnificent house," Mom replied, her fork lingering halfway to her mouth as if I had personally offended her. "Think about all the memories we could create there." Sophia jumped right in. "Yes, sister. It may be similar to our family retreat place. We could hold barbecues and holiday parties there. Christmas mornings with snow on the ground, and summer evenings with fireflies." I attempted to explain my rationale. The house would mostly sit unoccupied. I didn't need that much space. The flat would be more practical and convenient. But then Mom took out the heavy weapons. She leaned across the table, took my hand with both of hers, and gave me the puppy dog eyes that she had been using on me since I was 5. "Please, Madison," she pleaded, her voice softening and imploring. "Keep the house for the family, for me." When your mother looks at you like that and says, "For me," resistance becomes almost impossible. I have always had a sweet spot for my family, particularly my parents. They worked hard their entire lives and never asked for anything, and now they're asking me to preserve something that would offer them joy. How could I say no? So I did not. Instead of selling the property and purchasing the flat altogether, I obtained a mortgage on a smaller apartment in the city. It wasn't the contemporary fantasy apartment I'd hoped for, but it was satisfactory. 2 bedrooms, a new kitchen, and a convenient location for shopping and work. The monthly payments weren't too hard, given to my good salary and the hefty down payment I had put up. After deciding to keep the house, I immediately installed a complete security system. I'm a single lady, and the house is rather remote. I wanted to feel protected while I was there alone. I had cameras put around the property and purchased one of those alarm systems that connect directly to a monitoring provider. The entire system cost me around $2,500, but it was well worth it for the peace of mind. I also handed my mother an extra set of keys. The happiness on her face when I gave them over made the financial sacrifice worthwhile. Over the next 2 years, the home served as the unofficial family headquarters. My parents would go out there for weekend trips, just the 2 of them, like if they were still young. Sophia would take Daniel there for romantic weekends, making lavish dinners in the kitchen and going for long walks around the property. During the holidays, the space would fill with voices and laughing. my parents, Sophia, Daniel, and on occasion, my mother's sister Catherine and her husband, as well as my father's brother David and his family. I honestly felt pleased about my decision. Sure, I was paying a mortgage when I could have purchased my condo outright, but seeing my family happy made it worthwhile. My employment was going great. The payments weren't too much for me, and I felt good about being the one who made family reunions possible. Sophia and Daniel's relationship became more serious by the month. Daniel's parents, Karen and Michael, have even started attending some of our meetings. They appeared like fine people, perhaps a little more tense than our family, but polite enough. I can envision wedding bells in the not-too-distant future. Then came the phone call on Tuesday evening, which triggered everything. Madison, honey, Mom's voice was upbeat and pleasant. I just wanted to let you know that we're arranging a large family gathering at your country home on Friday. It'll be me and your father, Sophia and Daniel, his parents Karen and Michael, and Catherine and David's entire family. Will you be able to join us? I groaned and looked at my calendar. I wish I could, Mom, but I have a very important management meeting on Friday. I'll probably be trapped at the office till late. Oh, do not worry about it, sweetie, Mom remarked in that knowing tone I'd heard 1,000 times. Your work is vital. We will have fun without you. She hung up, and I returned to watching a meaningless TV show without thinking much about it. Just another family gathering that I'd have to skip due to work. It happens occasionally. But on Friday morning, everything changed. I was getting ready for the big meeting, mentally preparing for what I knew would be a long and stressful day, when my boss phoned. Madison, I have some bad news. Both the director and his deputy became ill with the flu overnight. We'll have to postpone the management meeting until next week. I honestly felt relieved. Those meetings were often heated, and I had been dreading this one for weeks. Take the afternoon off if you want, he said. There's not much else going on today. After I hung up, I sat there for a bit to reflect. My family was enjoying themselves at my country estate, and I found myself with a free Friday afternoon. Why not surprise them? The notion made me grin. It had been a long since I had done something impulsive. I could show up with some sweets, join the celebration, and witness the surprised and delighted expressions on their faces. It would be wonderful. I hurriedly got ready and headed to my favorite downtown pastry store. The type of establishment where everything costs twice as much but tastes like bliss. I purchased a variety of their greatest products: chocolate croissants, fruit tarts, and other sophisticated sweets whose names I could not pronounce. People are thrilled simply gazing at these delights. When I arrived into my country house's driveway, I noticed that all of the lights were turned on and numerous automobiles were parked outside. Mom and Dad's old Honda, Sophia's small red Toyota, Daniel's black SUV, and a few more automobiles I recognized as belonging to other family members. Everyone was there, and the sounds of voices and laughing coming through the windows indicated that they were having a good time. I collected the bag of pastries and silently exited my car. I wanted this to be a genuine surprise, so I sneaked in via the front door with my key. The noises were coming from the living room, and I could see there were a lot of people inside. I inserted my key into the lock as quietly as possible and spun carefully. The door opened silently. I went inside, holding my breath and trying not to make a sound on the hardwood floor. I was ready to come into the room and exclaim surprise when I overheard my mother utter something that caused my blood to freeze. I'm telling you, Madison is very foolish. The laughing that ensued seemed like a bodily blow. I squeezed against the wall, my heart thumping so hard that I knew they could hear it in the next room. She does anything we tell her to do, Mom said, her voice amused like a tiny puppet. It is almost too easy. More laughter, louder this time. Remember when we urged her not to sell the house? Dad spoke up and I could hear the amusement in his voice. She was prepared to sell it and buy herself a decent apartment entirely. But we told her a sob tale about family memories, and she kept the house and got a mortgage instead. Now we can use this gorgeous property anytime we want, but she has to pay for a small flat. My mother remarked the child has absolutely no backbone. And the nonchalant malice in her speech seemed like a knife in my chest. I could not breathe. This cannot be happening. These were the folks who were meant to love, support, and protect me no matter what. They were talking about me as if I were a joke. Then Sophia's voice broke through the laughing. And somehow this stung even more. Oh, and here's the greatest part. Every month I call Madison and whine over my rent, and she always gives me around $750 with no questions asked. $750. I recalled all the times Sophia had contacted me, seeming tense and concerned about money. All those times I felt good about being able to aid my younger sister. All those times, I deposited money to her account without hesitation, glad to be the older sister who could solve her difficulties. The audience erupted in laughter again, and I felt physically ill. Then I heard my Aunt Catherine's voice. That reminds me of when I contacted Madison 6 months ago. I informed her that I needed money for emergency dental work. They said it would cost $1,800, which I didn't afford. And she just handed it to you. Someone inquired without requesting any proof or information. Catherine laughed. I didn't want to see a dental bill or anything. I just deposited the funds to my account the next day. So, what exactly did you spend money on? Catherine excitedly announced that she had new living room furnishings. I got this beautiful sectional sofa and a coffee table set. Madison very much redecorated my living room for me. The laughing was becoming louder and more vicious. I noticed I was shaking. Then my Uncle David began talking, and I discovered that the $1,200 he needed for automobile difficulties last year was actually for a fishing boat he intended to purchase. $1,200. $1,800. $750 each month. All of these figures were building up in my brain, and I was beginning to comprehend how much money I had given away over the years. I worked hard for this money. Money I'd earned via long hours, unpleasant meetings, and meticulous planning. They took money from me while laughing at how foolish I was. I then heard Daniel's father's voice. It's very remarkable to have a family member like Madison. Someone who has money and just hands it out when you ask. Imagine having your own personal bank that never asks questions. That is precisely who she is. My mother agreed, and her voice was full of delight. A walking ATM. The nicest thing is that she never demands for her money back. She just gives it freely as if she were a charity. Well, we need to keep this gravy train going, Dad remarked. I can't allow her become too smart and start saying no to us. My mother's voice became enthusiastic. Actually, that's ideal timing because I've been considering our next major request. Sophia and Daniel are surely going to be engaged soon, correct? We've been talking about it, Sophia explained. Daniel has been looking at rings. Perfect, Mom continued. When that happens, we'll convince Madison that she has to pay for the wedding. I believe we can obtain at least $8,000 to $12,000 from her for that. Maybe more if we play it correctly. A wedding typically costs between $8,000 and $12,000. My sister's wedding, which I would not be engaged in arranging but would be expected to pay for. How are you going to get her to do that? Someone asked. Easy, Mom responded. And I could almost hear her kneading her hands together. We'll tell her it's what families do for one another, that she's the successful one, and that she should assist her younger sister have the perfect wedding. We will make her feel guilty if she even considers saying no. The sound of glasses clinking permeated the air. Here's to stupid relatives with money, someone shouted, eliciting laughter and cheers. And here's to Madison, my mother said. The gift that keeps on giving. I stood there in that corridor, clutching that bag of pricey pastries, feeling as if the entire world had crashed around me. These folks, my own family, did not perceive me as generous, kind, or loving. They viewed me as a target, a stupid, and a resource to be used. All the times I felt wanted and respected. All those times when I felt good about assisting them. All those nice family events where I felt so close to these folks, were all a lie. Every part of it. They did not love me. They cherished my money. I turned around as quietly as possible and headed back to the front entrance. I had to get out of there before they discovered I was inside the house. My hands were trembling so terribly that I could hardly turn the doorknob, but I managed. I got back to my car without making a sound and placed the pastries in the passenger seat. They suddenly seemed sad sitting there. I bought these costly sweets to surprise folks who believed I was an idiot. I started the engine and cautiously backed out of the driveway, trying not to let my emotions take over until I was well away from the home. But as soon as I was out of sight, the tears started streaming. By the time I returned to my apartment, I was weeping so hard that I couldn't see to drive. I sank into my couch and wept for hours. Not just sad tears, but furious and wounded ones. Tears of betrayal, shame, and outrage. I spent the whole weekend reflecting on what I had heard and what I intended to do about it. Part of me wanted to contact them right away and confront them, yell at them, tell them how I felt about their little plot, and cut them off totally. But suddenly I realized something. They had recently made preparations to have me pay for Sophia's wedding. They were so confident in their deception, and so certain of my idiocy, that they lay out their whole approach right in my living room. Let's see how that goes, I thought. I did not have to wait long. 2 weeks later, my phone rang on a Tuesday evening. It was Mom, and she sounded really excited about something. Madison, oh honey, I have the most wonderful news, she told me. Sophia and Daniel got engaged. Can you believe it? Daniel proposed last night with this beautiful ring. Sophia is over the moon. That's so sweet, I said, playing along. I bet she was completely surprised. She was. And Madison, we want to have an engagement party to celebrate. I was thinking we could have it at your country house in a couple of weeks. Would that be okay? I thought. Here it comes. Of course, Mom. The house is always available for family events. There was a lull, and I could almost hear her getting ready for the big ask. Madison, honey, there's just one tiny little problem, she replied, her voice becoming concerned. What's wrong, Mom? Well, we want to make this party really special for Sophia and Daniel with nice catering and decorations and everything, but we're a little short on funds right now. I had to bite my tongue to avoid laughing. Oh no, that's too bad. I feel terrible asking, but we need about $4,500 to make this party really nice. For the catering, the decorations, a gorgeous engagement cake. I know it's a lot of money, but Sophia only gets engaged once. There it was. 2 weeks ago, I overheard them discussing the same strategy. $4,500, I responded, my voice seeming apprehensive. Wow, that is a lot. I know, but you make good money at your job, and Sophia is your only sister. This is such an important moment for her. I could almost hear her holding her breath, waiting for me to agree, just as she usually did. Mom, I wish I could help, but I don't have that kind of money available right now, I told her. I just had some unexpected expenses come up. Some repairs on my apartment that I had to pay for. My emergency fund is pretty much tapped out. I could see she was disappointed, but she tried not to express it. Oh well, what if Sophia and Daniel and your dad and I paid for everything up front and then you could pay us back later when you have the money? Perfect. They were quite predictable. That sounds like it might work, I said. You guys go ahead and order whatever you want for the party and I'll pay you back as soon as I can. Really? Oh, Madison, you're an angel. I'll call the caterers tomorrow and get everything set up. Sounds great, Mom. I can't wait for the party. After she hung up, I sat there, shaking my head. They were so certain they had me figured out that I handed up $4,500 without hesitation, just like I had always done. They were going to learn something new about me. 2 weeks passed, and on Thursday, I phoned a locksmith and booked a visit to my country home on Friday evening. I informed them I wanted all of the locks replaced, including the front and back doors. I made sure to plan them for late in the evening, when no one in my family would be there. On Friday, after work, I drove home. They had already decorated for Saturday's festivities. Actually, the site looked magnificent. They'd placed streamers and balloons everywhere, set up exquisite tables with white tablecloths, and hang string lights to make everything appear spectacular. They had really gone all out. I nearly felt awful about what I was planning to do. Almost. The locksmith arrived just on schedule at 7 p.m. Jericho was a kind man who didn't inquire why anyone would want to change their locks the night before a party. After he went, I wandered through the home once again, admiring the decor. Then I began putting everything down, including the streamers, balloons, and elegant table settings. I crammed everything all into large black rubbish bags, trying not to think about how much effort they had taken into making the room appear immaculate. When I finished, I moved the bags to the corner of the house, where they would be visible from the driveway but out of the way. Then I drove home and waited for tomorrow's concert to begin. The next morning, Saturday, I texted my mom. Hello, Mom. I'm so sorry, but I won't be able to attend Sophia's engagement celebration today. I'm feeling fairly unwell with a cold and don't want to make everyone else sick. She responded approximately an hour later. That is fine, Madison. Feel better. That was it. Number. Oh no. Are you okay? Or are you in need of anything? Or I hope you'll feel well soon. Just that is fine. She did not even pretend to be concerned about my health. She seemed relieved that I wouldn't be there. I spent the morning lounging in my flat, waiting to see what happened. I had a pizza for lunch and prepared myself a cup of coffee. Then I settled in to watch some television. Around 2 o'clock, my phone started ringing. It was Mom. I smiled and sent it to voicemail. A few minutes later, Father phoned. I didn't respond to that one either. Then Sophia called. Nope. Then Mom again. Still no response. My phone started vibrating with texts. I eventually checked them after approximately 20 minutes of frequent alerts. Madison, we are at the house but our keys do not work. Mom, the locks are different. What has happened, Dad? Madison, why are you not answering the phone? We can't get in. Sophia, this is absurd. The keys do not fit at all. Mom, again. I put my phone away and let them stress for another 30 minutes while I ate my pizza. It was really rather serene knowing that they were all standing outside my house, bewildered and irritated, most likely fighting over what to do. Finally, when I thought they'd had enough, I responded when Mom phoned again. Madison, thank God you responded. She yelled into her phone. We're all at your house, but we can't go inside. All of the relatives are present. Daniel's parents are present. The caterers just arrived with all the food and we're standing in the driveway like idiots because the door won't open. That's strange, I responded, taking a drink from my coffee. What do you mean by weird? Something is wrong with your locks. Actually, nothing is wrong with them, I explained gently. I got them replaced yesterday. For around 10 seconds, the other end of the phone remained silent. Did you change the locks? Mom eventually stuttered. Why would you do that? I nonchalantly replied. I heard you call me stupid about a month ago. You and everyone else there were laughing at how dumb I am. Another pause. I heard voices in the background. Probably everyone wanted to know what was going on. Madison, honey, I think you misunderstood something, she murmured, abruptly reverting to her lovely tone. We would never say anything like that about you. Really? So you didn't say I was incredibly stupid and that I do whatever you tell me to do like a puppet. There is more stillness. And Sophia didn't brag about scamming me out of rent money every month? There was more stillness. And Catherine didn't laugh about spending my dental emergency money on furniture instead. Madison, you aren't making sense, Mom remarked. But her voice was becoming wobbly. I overheard the entire exchange. Mom. Every word. About how I am a walking ATM. About how you intended to convince me to pay for Sophia's wedding. Regarding the toast you all toasted to your financially dumb family. The line became silent again. I could hear other voices in the background. Probably everyone wanted to know what was going on. Even if you heard anything like that, Mom remarked. Finally, you have to understand we were just joking around. We didn't mean anything by it. I laughed. Joking. Taking thousands of dollars from me while calling me an idiot behind my back is your version of a joke. Madison, you're being ridiculous. We're family. Family helps each other out. You're right, Mom. Family should help each other out. But what you've been doing isn't helping, it's stealing. Sophia's voice could be heard shouting in the background, and she was then on the phone. Sophia yelled, Madison, you are such a brat. We have already decorated the house. Everyone's here. The food has arrived. You're about to wreck my engagement party. Actually, Sophia, I have already taken down all of your decorations, I explained gently. They're in rubbish bags on the corner of the home. You can pick them up and leave my property. You cannot do this to me, she cried. Today is my special day. Your special day, which you expected me to pay for while laughing about how foolish I am. Yes, I can do this to you. We're going to break down the door, Sophia said. No, you're not, I said. Because I have security cameras and an alarm system. Remember? If you do damage to my property, I will contact the police and have you all arrested. Sophia started weeping and handed the phone back to her mother. Madison, please, Mom said, can't we work this out? Just allow us in and we'll discuss this like grown-ups. There's nothing to work out, Mom. I've heard exactly what you all think of me, and the conversation is finished. But we spent $4,500 on this party, she cried anxiously, and I busted out laughing. And whose fault is it? I told you I did not have the money. You chose to spend it anyhow, trying to shame me into repaying you later. That was your decision, Mom. That is not fair. We are your family. You're correct. You are my family, and that is what makes this whole situation so much worse. I took a deep breath. Take your decorations, food and visitors, and leave my land. And do not come back. You don't mean that, she murmured, sounding terrified now. I totally mean it. I am done being your personal ATM. I'm done being the foolish sister and daughter that has to pay for everything. I am done with all of you. I hung up the phone and turned off the ringer. For the next hour, I watched on my security cameras as they all packed up and left. It was actually pretty satisfying to see them loading the catering food back into the delivery truck and shoving the decorations into their cars. Sophia was crying the entire time, and Daniel looked completely perplexed. The next morning, Sunday, there was a tremendous beating on my apartment door, and I peeked through the peephole to see my parents and Sophia standing there, furious. I opened the door and asked, "What do you want?" "We want to talk," Dad said, shoving his way into my flat. "You ruined everything," Sophia blurted out. "My engagement party is ruined, and it's all your fault. Actually, it's your fault for believing I was foolish enough to pay for it after what I heard you say about me. You owe us $4,500, Mom yelled, and we spent it because of you." I nearly burst out laughing. "You spent that money thinking you could trick me into paying for it, but it backfired." Mom's face became pale as she realized I had set them up on purpose. You did this on purpose," she said softly. "Of course I did. You believe I'm foolish, remember? But it turns out I'm far smarter than you gave me credit for." Dad said, "Until you apologize to us and pay us back that money, we're not speaking to you anymore." I grinned at him. "Perfect. That prevents me from having to remove you from my life on my own. I don't want to talk to any of you anymore." "You can't be serious," Mom said. "Dead serious. I am done giving you money. I am done letting you use me. I am a lot smarter today, aren't I?" I unlocked my flat door. "Now get out." I never sold the country house. Instead, I signed a contract with a real estate agency, and they rent it out as a vacation rental. The income actually helps pay my mortgage, and I no longer have to deal with my freeloading family. Sophia married last month, according to Facebook. It was a small, inexpensive ceremony at a local church. I wasn't invited, and I obviously didn't send a gift. My parents and Sophia have tried to contact me a few times through mutual friends, but I ignore them because I'm not interested in reconciling. They told me exactly what they think of me, and I believe them. My bank account is healthier, my stress levels are lower, and I've started building relationships with people who actually care about me as a person, not as a source of money. It turns out I'm not as stupid as they thought, and I'm just tired of being their fool. Sometimes the individuals who hurt us the most are the ones we absolutely trust. Nonetheless, realizing their actual character might be just what we need to finally start living for ourselves.